This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 33 of the Wisdom by Wessa show on the Horse Radio Network. This is Mike Donnell.
I'm Casey Wilbanks-Coletti.
And this is Sophia Aguila. Welcome to the Wisdom by Wessa podcast on the Horse Radio Network.
This podcast is brought to you by the Western and English Sales Association, WESA, which provides the world's largest trade events for retailers, manufacturers, and sales representatives of the equestrian industry. In this podcast, we feature exclusive interviews with noteworthy Western and English personalities, retailers, and exhibitors who you've always wanted to talk to. Don't miss out on all the news for manufacturers and retailers in the equine industry. Hey, Sophia, we have a great show lined up today. As always, you do such a great job. Today's guest is actually the founder of Boutique Hub, and it's under my understanding that the Boutique Hub is also associated with WESA. So tell us more about their relationship.
Yes, so the Boutique Hub, along with the Western lifestyle retailer, produced the Western Summit, which takes place on WESA's pre-trade show day, which will be January 9th of 2020. And on our pre-trade show day, the permanent showrooms that are also WESA members open up for retailers. So most of them actually need an appointment. But at the same time, the Western Summit takes place by the plaza stage of the Denver Mart. So it's just a great way to learn more tips and tricks just right before the WESA trade show opens up, while also getting a little sneak peek into the showrooms.
So as for moving forward and the move for WESA, will WESA and the Boutique Hub continue the relationship, or will this be the last time that they're associated?
Yeah, so we're excited that we actually are going to continue our little partnership, and the Boutique Hub will follow WESA to Dallas, or more precisely the Dallas Market Center. So yeah, we will continue together, and they will follow us as we host the first trade show in Texas in 2021.
Will you be able to share any specials?
Yeah, the Western Summit always shares their specials or early bird pricing with us. So we will post them on our social media and also include them in our winter newsletter. But Ashley actually will be able to tell us more about that now as well.
Great. Well, we'll let Mike introduce Ashley, and then we'll get to her interview.
Ashley Alderson's early love of rodeo and fashion began to transition into a business career when she was named Miss Rodeo North Dakota and then Miss Rodeo America. It was while appearing at the National Western Stock Show and Rodeo in Denver, she made her first visit to the WESA show. Today, that relationship continues through her company, the Boutique Hub, which is a highly successful online meeting place for boutique retailers and consumers. On January 9th of next year, 2020, Boutique Hub will co-sponsor its third Western Summit on the day before the 2020 Winter WESA show opens. This one-day event brings together retailers and Western brands for a full schedule of presentations and workshops to discuss the latest Western fashion and retailing trends. Ashley joins us today to tell us the unique story of her business and her pursuit of her fashion industry dream. Ashley Alderson, welcome to Wisdom by Wessa.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're glad you are. I think I want to do this show a little bit different than some. I want to start with the present and work backward through all of your various involvement in the rodeo and the fashion world. But let's talk about something coming up that's pretty exciting, and that's coming up in January, the Western Summit on the day preceding the WESA show, because I think if we talk a bit about that, everything else falls into perspective. Talk to me a bit about A, what it is, and B, its origination.
Absolutely. So we're so excited to have this opportunity for the entire Western industry. This is actually the third year now that we've hosted the Western Summit the day before the WESA show. And it's a collaboration between our team at the Boutique Hub and the team at Western Lifestyle Retailer. Our mission is really to be the go-to. It's a grassroots business conference for anyone who's involved in the Western industry, mainly retail, wholesale. We've got a lot of influencers that are involved, but we really wanted to create something that sparked a conversation amongst our industry. There's so much change, as you guys know, happening, whether it's the rise of e-commerce or just, differences in consumer behavior and the way that retailers and wholesalers need to, change their strategy for success. And we wanted to have an open conversation about that in a business conference, a one-day setting. So January 9th, is the date of the event. We've got about 15 speakers that come and join us that day. It's in kind of that showroom, kind of cafeteria area there at the WESA show. And we pack the room with about 225, 250 people usually. And it's a good time, networking, speakers, a lot of business education, and just a goal to unite our industry.
Now, is this primarily targeted to retailers or to brands or to both?
It's really to both. So we want to have, some opportunity for collaboration and networking, and also some wholesale buying that takes place on that day. And then in all of our breakout sessions, we target the education to either one side or the other. So we'll have panels and breakout sessions that are geared toward retail, some toward e-commerce, some toward brick and mortar. And then we've got some breakout sessions targeted toward wholesalers and manufacturers as well.
So I know you must have been putting this together. What are some of the topics you might cover in those individual sessions? What if I'm a retailer listening to the show, I want to come there, what kind of takeaways am I going to have from attending those sessions?
That's a great question. We try to be as inclusive as we can to each area of business. So there's the things that we'll try not to do right after lunch that are boring, like inventory management and reporting, because, everyone loves that topic, right? But it's critical. We'll do that
great.
Right away in the morning, so nobody falls asleep. And then we'll spruce things up in the afternoon with more marketing, team management. We try to get things that are a little bit more cutting edge. This year, we're going to talk a lot about live selling, the rising opportunities with video. I talk quite a bit about Facebook ads, so we'll go down that road as well. But then we'll also hear some inspiring stories, some owners that have really created something from nothing. They're going to share kind of their ups and their downs. So there should be something for everyone, no matter what stage of business they're in or what type of business they have in the industry.
Now, will all the speakers be from within the industry, or are you bringing people in from outside our industry to talk as well?
Yeah, we do bring some from outside of the industry as well. We've got some partners that we've worked with for a number of years. Management One is one partner in particular that we bring in to do a lot on the inventory management side of things. And retailers, we do try to make those a little bit more industry specific and brands, just because we do market. We've got a unique way to market ourselves that is industry specific.
Okay, now let's back away from that show, from that Western Summit. Let's talk a bit about your company.
Yeah, so, kind of working backwards, like you said, the Western Summit is really a spinoff of what we do every day at the Boutique Hub. So Western Summit, like I mentioned, is a partnership between us and Western Lifestyle Retailer for Western industry specifics. But that was created because we had first created a huge conference, which is about 1,000 people now, called the Boutique Summit. And that is the largest grassroots business conference for retailers in the United States. So once a year, we host that event at different market locations around the U.S. We've done Dallas and Atlanta, and we'll be announcing our locations soon for 2020. And that's really our way for the entire boutique retail industry to get together. The Boutique Summit's a part of our company, the Boutique Hub. And I apologize if I get windy, but I'll tell you just a little bit about the Boutique Hub. There's really two main things that we do. We help connect shoppers and consumers with boutiques and retailers around the world so that they can shop them directly. And then we also connect the boutique industry itself. So kind of started out of this, I'll say need, because I'm from North Dakota originally, which you guys know North Dakota is a fashion mecca. I don't need to tell anybody that. Full of boutiques, right? Not really. So when I was growing up, there was really no boutiques in North Dakota. And there is now, thankfully. But when I was growing up, I just really wanted to find this place where all the boutiques I like to shop around the country were on one website, like an online shopping mall of boutiques. And so that's how the Boutique Hub first started. And we still have that component today called Boutique Style. But when we built it, what we found was when we brought all of these independent retailers together, they really needed a community more than anything. And like one central location where they could find all the tools they needed to grow their business on one platform. So education, tips and tools from all kinds of experts, the ability to find new wholesale brands to carry in their store, and then some of the events and conferences and meetups that we host as well.
Now, here's a question for me. When I hear the word boutique, when Casey hears it, when Sophia hears it, I'm not certain we all think about the same thing. What in your lingo and your definition is a boutique?
It's a good question. I get that question a lot. We think of a boutique as an independently owned business. So not like something that is, a large corporation or a chain of boutiques. So usually it's something that has under 15 locations or so, although we do work with some that are franchise boutiques, so like Mainstream Boutique or Fabric or Apricot Lane. If you've heard of some of those stores, we do work some franchise as long as they are independently owned.
Okay, because I would think of something even smaller than that. So I'm wrong. But anyway, all right, now let's move
The
back.
definition's definitely changing.
Well, the definition, I imagine, is changing, but I always thought a boutique is one, maybe a single outlet, retail outlet, relatively small, focusing on the neighborhood or the local town it's in. But really, in your view, it's a much bigger footprint. A boutique can have multiple stores, maybe in multiple markets.
Well, really, this is kind of an interesting conversation because what's happening in retail today, and this is what the news media tells us, they tell us that we're in the middle of this retail apocalypse, right? And that all these big box stores are closing and it's just kind of do or die for retail. But really, that's not the truth of what's happening. The truth is that people want to do business with people. And I think that really comes from our Western heritage and from agriculture in general. People still want to do business on a handshake. And that's what an independent retailer is. So as big box stores have closed, there's this huge resurgence in independent retail. So it is growing to multiple locations, but it's also growing online. So we work with a number of stores that aren't just brick and mortar, but we work with a lot of e-commerce stores or companies that have some kind of combination between e-commerce, brick and mortar. Maybe some have a fashion truck, or they do a lot of vendor events, like say going to the NFR, a lot of pop-ups. There's just really a kind of a wide variety because the consumer demand is there.
So let's back one step away now from the boutique hub, and let's talk about your interest in fashion and the Western lifestyle and rodeo, because I think those early years as you got in that area, in my way of thinking and talking with you, kind of crystallized this idea in your mind, and then it kind of grew a life of its own with you in charge.
Yeah, it really did. Like I told you, I was from North Dakota originally, and I grew up on a ranch in North Dakota. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, 5 girls and 1 boy. So my brother was real talkative. You can imagine that. And us girls, we all loved fashion. We all loved the Western way of life, and we all rodeoed. But what happens when you're the youngest, and I don't know if any of you on the show here are the youngest of your families, but you tend to get a stubborn streak and you want to be different than the rest in your family. So I decided that because everyone kind of excelled at their own event, whether it was, breakaway or running barrels, or I have a sister that's awesome goat tire, I decided I'd be different. So I was going to be a rodeo queen. So I still competed in all those events in high school and a lot of amateur as well. And I still run barrels quite a bit today. But I fell in love with this opportunity to represent the sport that I loved and also agriculture as a whole. So I was Miss Rodeo North Dakota. I was a high school queen as well, and then competed for Miss Rodeo America and was able to win Miss Rodeo America in 2007. And that's really where the idea for the boutique hub came from. Because like I said, I couldn't find those really cool stores when I was at home, but it was when I was traveling as Miss Rodeo America that I really discovered them. And really primarily at the NFR. You guys know what it's like to go to Cowboy Christmas, and the shopping's unbelievable. And I wanted to have that experience online 24/7. So that's kind of how that seed got planted. And now I tell you what, I'm a lucky gal because I still get to work with that entire industry and those types of boutiques, not just at the Boutique Hub and with Western Summit, but we also own a Western fashion magazine now called Western Runway. So we do a lot of fashion coverage during the NFR as well through that outlet.
So you started a boutique in what year again?
Well, I didn't start a boutique, but I started the boutique hub in 2013. Yep.
Okay, so 2013, we're looking 2020 in the eye. How much has the change in technology impacted what you're able to do with your dream?
Oh, my goodness. 100%, it's a completely night and day operation. I remember when Facebook was first invented and you had to be a college student, you had to be invited to the platform, and Mark Zuckerberg was your very first friend on the platform. And just even watching that evolution of what's happened to, independent retail prior to social media, and then the early adopters to social media, and then even the early adopters to e-commerce. And now, with these long-time successful brick and mortar stores that are now getting online as well, it's amazing to see what's happened and the growth that's taken place. And truthfully, there's some that have adopted and changed and they've soared because of it. And there's others that are still trying to figure it out, how to be successful. And wrapping back to Western Summit, I think that's really our goal. Is some people are scared of that technology and all of that change that's taken place. And we just want to break down those barriers so that everyone has kind of that same opportunity going forward with the changes taking place so fast in technology.
Great. Casey, I need a chance here to bring you in because
Yeah.
I'm kind of dominating the conversation, but the whole thing is really where your bailiwick is, which is fashion and retailing and rodeo. You have a symbiotic relationship with all of this. You better jump in here because I don't want to dominate the whole thing.
Well, the flow was so great, and so I was taking it all in right along with you guys. But you did a great job working all the way through it, and now circling back to the Western Summit because that is upon us very, very soon. I do want to talk about your relationship that you've had with WISA. I have never been to a Western Summit. I've always wanted to go. This will be your third year, Mike. I don't know if you have went, but I know that it's not just
I've never been there either. We don't have a boutique.
Well,
we need to start a boutique so we can go.
It's so true. It's such a great chance for people to network. And I see online through social media before and leading up to it during your summit, how excited everybody is. And there's a lot of talk and stuff that goes on beforehand. So I wanted to just fill in a couple of spots here. When will you announce the speakers that you'll be having at the summit this year? And then how can just make sure, and let's make it easy for anybody that's interested in going to make sure that they're able to attend?
Absolutely. So we've already started to announce some of the speakers, some names that you might recognize. I'm sure you're familiar with Joey Austin, the owner of Hui. He joined us last year for a little bit and was such a big hit. He's going to be back again this year. We've got a number of boutique owners that are joining us in a couple different varieties. Quincy with Rodeo Quincy is going to be joining us. Aisha, who is the creative director from Boot Barn and who's behind all of the Wonder West, like those beautiful photo shoots. She's going to be joining us, as well as Jansen, the owner of Denim and Velvet. She'll be talking photography and marketing and branding. And then we've got a team from Comet Sold, which is a Comet selling platform that works with a lot of both, I would say, brick and mortar and e-commerce stores, and then our entire team at the Boutique Hub as well. So a number of speakers are already being announced. And then if you wanted to find more information, and also as our tickets go on sale, you can find that at theboutiquehub.com/Western Summit 2020.
Awesome. For those of us that have never been, but have heard such great things, set the mood for us. Put us in those seats in that day, because I've heard just how motivational. Give us maybe some descriptive words that would explain just the mood and the tone that day at the Western Summit.
Oh my goodness. I hope that it's motivational is, a huge one. I would say motivational because we've got to touch on mindset to start the day. I think anytime we're thinking about business and transformation, we have to start in and work out. So we start with mindset and the things that we have to work on inside of ourselves in order for our businesses to be successful. So we want to reflect there first. And we do talk about productivity and just all the challenges that are upon us as business owners today as well. And then we kind of work into the nitty gritty of the business. So we'll get you the numbers, inventory management, all of that, and then the fun stuff with the marketing. But for some people, that's life-changing, the opportunity to be inspired and to hear from some of their mentors and icons in this industry.
Yes.
So hopefully life-changing.
Yes, and so much fun. It looks like so much fun. And this is just a question for those that may not be able to attend. Is there any opportunities to watch some of the speakers online afterwards, or do you just kind of keep it locked down to right there at the summit?
That's a great question. For our other event, we actually do record all the speakers, but for this one, we haven't. We would love it if you have an opportunity to join us in person. We've got a lot that will happen on social media and some behind-the-scenes interviews. But for right now, to see these speakers, you do have to attend in person.
Great. Well, that's all I have, Mike. You covered it so well. I just love, Ashley, you're just such a bright and focused person. And I can't help but to circle back around to being Miss Rodeo America, because that is something that I have really noticed with rodeo royalty. And it doesn't have to be at the Miss Rodeo America level, but you guys are just so groomed to be so professional and so organized. And that title that you held had to have really helped set the tone for your ability to accomplish and manage what you're doing right now.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. I wish I could say it was really that bright and groomed and organized behind the scenes all the time, but unfortunately it's not. That's life. But I do my best. But I will tell you, it is a great opportunity. And I think that's the thing, about the reason I got into this. My sisters, it was really more of a challenge than anything to do something different. But when I realized the opportunity that these young women have to meet people, to learn how to public speak, to know how to present themselves in a professional manner, schools don't teach those things anymore. And agriculture, I feel like, this is really the basis of where all of that comes from. I wish more public schools and big cities had that opportunity to learn those lessons today, because it's just, such a unique and special way of life.
I
Well,
agree.
listen, I think we've covered a lot of ground here, but it all kind of held together in my mind. If I were listening to this podcast when we put it up in a couple of weeks, I would definitely want to put the Western Summit. Is there a limit to how many people you can have, or can it be standing room only in that section of the Denver Mart?
We do have a limit. So if you're thinking about coming, definitely get on the site. Again, it's theboutiquehub.com/Western Summit 2020. And I'm sure you guys will have a link as well. But you never know. The trickiest part about coming to Denver in January, as you guys know, is the weather. So sometimes we will have last minute cancellations if people can't make it. And so if you're there and you don't have a ticket and it's the last minute, definitely reach out to our team and we will try to get you a spot in the room.
Well, and here's another question. I've not looked at that space. Is there a fee to attend, or is this open as long as you have called for reservations?
There actually is. It's a ticketed event because of the great deal of speakers and information that are coming in and will be shared. But it's pretty affordable. It's $165 for a ticket to attend, and that does include your breakfast and lunch for the day.
Okay. Well, that's one other thing to know. Listen, thanks a lot for your time. You're so enthusiastic about this. I think it's an enthusiasm and a knowledge that's been building up since your days of being the little sister and going the queen route as opposed to the competition route in the arena. But it looks like you've built a business that has a lot of facets. I'll ask one other question. You may or may not want to answer it, but I know for a fact that people like you always have the next idea in mind. You started the Boutique Hub, and then you moved in to the Western Summit. Now you have a magazine. Is there any, I'm sure there is, but can you give us a hint as to what may be on the horizon?
Oh, man. Mike, you're going to give me the spill my guts here. I'll say this. I think, and anyone that's listening that's an entrepreneur, I think that once your mind has been trained to look for opportunity, you can't shut that part of your brain off, right? Like there's a way in which our brain works. For example, when people say the words, I can't afford something, it shuts down that path in your brain. Whereas if you say something like, how can I afford something? It opens up the opportunity to continually look for that opportunity. And being an entrepreneur is the same way. You're always open to the next thing. So I will tell you there's a lot of change happening in the wholesale side of our industry. So that may be where you see me show up next.
Okay, well, in other words, she's not going to tell us, listeners, she's not going to tell us, but there's going to be something new, and I'm so glad to hear that. Hey, Ashley, thanks so much for spending the time. It's been a lot of fun, and you're very knowledgeable about this, and we look forward to seeing you again sometime, and maybe Casey and I will worm our way into the background at the summit.
Yeah, you guys have to stop by. We would love that.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, have a good day.
Show notes and links from today's show can be found at the website wisdombywesa.com. And of course, there's feedback. We'd love to have yours. There's a contact link on that website, wisdombywesa.com.
The Wisdom by WESA show will be published on the 15th and 30th of every month. You can listen on most of your favorite podcast players, and you can also listen on the Horse Radio Network app on your iOS or Android phone. You just search Horse Radio Network in the App Store. It's free and super easy to use. Be sure to visit all the great shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com. Thanks for listening to the Wisdom by WESA podcast. WESA, where the industry meets.